Hello and welcome to my weekly reflection. This is my 11th week and this is the performance week. Alright, so Thursday was the performance day. We've been trying to finish our technical run through the start, run to the start of the performance, just to run to start the performance ready for later. The day before, we were told we were performing in front of the first years, in which didn't happen since we just hadn't even finished the technical. So we were very nervous that the tech team might not even might make a couple of slip ups on our first performance. Um, on the day, I was feeling extremely nervous, and I just didn't. And I, as I don't perform on stage as much as I used to when I did drama outside of college, the fact that this one was our first proper performances we actually had on this whole um as on this whole course with a live audience scared me, especially when we were going to like a new type of stage, which is the theatre one around. Our first performance was one of the best, and we were full with adrenaline and energy. As much as we had a lot of energy, there were a couple of mistakes that were fortunately unnoticed by the audience. For example, on my Napoleon scene, another actor on stage had tripped over one or two lines, which he overcame by carrying on. Myself, had also tripped over a couple of mistakes on the lines "Take Nothing." We all know you're more than capable of saying many things, often too much Northangland. I mispronounced Northangland because I was speaking so quickly, and I said like Northangland or something like that, and I thought people were gonna laugh at it, but they didn't, and I thought it was pretty obvious. And I overcame this challenge by just carrying on and maintaining my character. In that same scene, I felt like the pace was just too quick and was rushed. And realizing this, I took this into account to improve on my next performance. Friday, we received some feedback in the morning. I was told my volume was great on the first half of the show, but I needed to make sure to carry it on the second half as I was quieter in some scenes. I felt it difficult to take in the feedback as I knew what the lines were in the second half, and they were like quite sad lines that made me like my volume go lower. So I had to work on being sad whilst being loud, if that makes sense, which is a lot more difficult than it actually sounds. I also had to speak loud on my telescope scene when I spot an army marching towards Glasstown. We also needed to be a lot quieter when we were off stage, waiting for our next scene behind the performance room, so not in the wings. They ended up having too many people in the corridor, which raised the volume outside, and also we were told to close we were told to close the doors to the back of the wings a lot more slowly as they close really quickly, and they're really loud. Um, and we overcame this feedback by staying in the wings for a good amount of time. So there were less people in the corridor. And for me, it was actually easier because I was a soldier in like mostly the whole play. So soldiers are expected to be in the wings mostly all the time. So I was just at ease in the wings quite a lot of the time performance. Um, for me, I had a massive problem on my second day of performances the night before, as I hadn't actually had that much sleep. Um, So I had to deal with that, and I had a lot of anxiety going into the second day, as I felt like I just physically couldn't perform, and I had that moment of like, am I just gonna have to skip today? And I was like, surely not. And I communicated to my practitioner to let them know, and they just said, take a deep breath, go into like a space on your own, and just chill for like 30 minutes, then just go over the stuff you want to go over. Um, and it was difficult for me because I knew my energy was really low, but thankfully my energy got a lot better later on as I made sure I was eating. In the evening, we finished our performance and were really successful in taking in all our feedback and improving the show even more. There were still a couple of slip ups in the lines, but they were in different places this time, so it was only like some simple small mistakes that had been made. Um, but on the whole, his performance went a lot better. Whilst getting out of hair and makeup, whilst getting our hair and makeup done, we received feedback from the makeup crew, and they were really impressed on what they watched from Thursday, which is the first performance day, and they didn't actually notice any mess ups, which was good to hear. But obviously they didn't really know the scripts. They hadn't really watched us on how the show's meant to go. Um, we maintained our energy from our last performance, and I'd gotten into the performance mode today. And Saturday was a lot different as we are all just ready. Um, but Saturday was gonna be a tough day, and we had two performances to do on one day. Once again, we received more feedback. Our singing started to go downhill as we weren't hitting the right notes at the right time. And for our final song, we had to keep changing the notes. So when we were singing, instead of changing a note from there to there, we had to just slowly move the note up to that second like actual stanza. So a lot of people were doing like a bit of both. I myself, I was doing that and then that, but then I realized I had to slowly go higher up with the notes, and everyone communicates that after, and that got improved. Um, we had to keep changing the notes. Also, it was really difficult for this song, as we were literally singing notes for about a good minute, right? And we had to try and like take breaths when other people weren't taking breaths, because we all just took a breath at the same time, which sounds so weird, right? So we just end up just trying to find an appropriate time to take a breath and then quickly carry on with the song. Um, we excuse me. So we overcame this issue as well, by using our time before the performance, in the afternoon, by running singing exercises, as well as going over the song a couple of times to make sure we all knew what we were doing. Um, Again, this is going to communicate how we are meant to be singing these notes. After our performances on Saturday, I clearly realised that the first performance in the afternoon was the best performance we'd actually done, and remained to be our best too. We were all prepared to perform, and after our last two acts, we had taken in a lot of uh, our last two performances. Sorry, had taken a lot of feedback and improved ourselves. Our lines are all very clear and our transitions were clean. The only thing I'd say that I need to work on is my self belief on remembering what my next scene is. There are many times when I actually go into the back, behind the wings, into the corridor, and just double check what my next scene is on my script, which isn't like a big deal, but I still knew my next scene. I just wanted to reassure myself that that was the scene, if that makes sense. So that's what I did. When in actual fact, instead of leaving the space, I could have stayed in the wings and acted as my character, which is probably just being at ease as a soldier. Um, in the evening, we are all very tired from our first performance, and I just started to get like really tired before the performance myself, and I easily overcame this by doing some warm ups and surrounding myself around my friends for the second performance for like support. Um, After Saturday, I performed so many times that I didn't even need to look at my next scene, and I just made sure I was on the right side of the wings as soon as I finished my last scene, which is good. And it also meant my nerves was actually I had no nerves later on either, which is amazing. But I feel like in a performance you should have a little bit of stage fright just to give you that boost of adrenaline. Because if you don't, then I feel like your whole energy is just going to go down, as you just don't really think of it as like a big deal. Um, on Monday, we didn't get much feedback. We were told that our characters amazing, especially when we were in the wings. We kept acting in our characters. We actually rarely even like had a couple interactions with other characters in the wings, which made the performance more alive. For example, for me, I would like nod my head, like do like a slight soldier nod, at like somebody that I would know that I would know in the story, for example, like Zamorna or Northangerland, that would have some kind of power over me. Later on, performing the evening performances, I was a little bit disappointed. Not only myself, but a load of peers agreed that this is probably one of our worst runs ever. Having a day off um, from performing, which was on Sunday, made us very rusty, and it's almost like we lost our touch. And there are some lines that are messed up, and a couple of transitions are just really sloppy. On our fight scene, I even got hit in the hand by my partner, and I still carried on and put on a good show. It did hurt me, and I don't know if it looked like my hand was going to get chopped off, but I still worked with it, and I still kind of carried on fighting. Um, Tuesday was our last performance. We had to make sure it was our best, and the performance went well, but it wasn't the best. And we used our last hour of preparation before the performance by warming up and speed running through the performance, which took about like 10 minutes. It was like speed running through lines. We made sure our transitions were on point, and we paid some attention to the songs, and we made sure we're hitting the notes once again at the right time. At the end, we were all knackered, and I made sure I had plenty of rest that night. Overall, most performances we did, the more performance we did, got much better and improved massively. But our Monday, having our 1 day break, um, really put us off. And I wish we didn't really have that day off, or like because I wanted to just get the shows up and done with. And I just feel like having that day of rest is just gonna like ruin our mindset for the performance. And I was very proud of creating such a great piece of theatre, and it was so like emotional to finish this last performance at the end.